The small village of Green Valley, nestled in the Appalachian Mountains, awakened to the gentle touch of sunlight on the windows of stone houses. It was a place where time seemed to move more slowly, as if nature itself conspired to allow its inhabitants to savor each moment fully. It was here that Sarah Fields built her life, far from the chaos of big cities and close to what truly mattered. At 95 years old, Sarah was a true enigma to all who knew her. While many her age could barely walk without assistance, she climbed up and down mountain trails with the agility of someone decades younger. She tended her own herb garden, danced at community festivals, and had a mind as sharp as any young college student. Her silver hair framed a face marked by time, but her green eyes maintained an intense, almost hypnotic glow. "Miss Sarah, you must tell me your secret," insisted Emily, the village pharmacist, as she watched the elderly woman sorting herb leaves on her porch. "I have patients in their 60s who don't have half your energy." Sarah just smiled, with that mysterious air she always carried. "There's no secret, my dear. I just live each day as if it's special, because it is." But Emily knew there was more to it than that. As a health professional, she was intrigued by Sarah's extraordinary longevity and vitality. In the small village, she wasn't the only active centenarian. There were at least 5 other residents over 90 who continued to lead surprisingly healthy lives. It was as if Green Valley was a small American blue zone, one of those rare places in the world where people lived longer and better. On that cool autumn morning, as Emily was saying goodbye, an unfamiliar car parked in front of Sarah's stone house. A tall man with an urban appearance got out, carrying a suitcase and wearing an expression of exhaustion. "Grandma," he called out as he opened the wooden gate. Sarah's face lit up instantly. "Michael, my dear grandson, why didn't you let me know you were coming?" Michael Fields, 40 years old, was the opposite of his grandmother. A renowned doctor in New York City, he dedicated long hours to his practice and neglected almost everything that wasn't related to work. His body showed clear signs of an unbalanced life: deep dark circles under his eyes, hunched posture, and a permanently tired expression. "I needed a break, Grandma. Things aren't going well." Emily observed the scene with curiosity before walking away. The contrast between grandmother and grandson couldn't have been more evident. Inside the cozy house, as Sarah prepared a tea with fresh herbs from her garden, Michael told her about his life in New York. His marriage to Lisa was crumbling, his health rapidly deteriorating, and the pressure at the hospital where he worked only increased. At 40, he felt as if he were 80. "The tests don't lie, Grandma. My blood pressure is through the roof, cholesterol is off the charts, signs of prediabetes. The cardiologist said I'm heading for a serious condition if I don't drastically change my lifestyle." Sarah listened attentively while serving tea in ceramic mugs made by local artisans. "Try this infusion, Michael. It has green tea, ginger, a touch of turmeric, and pure honey from Mr. Johnson's beehives. Drink it slowly, savoring each sip." Michael obeyed, more out of courtesy than conviction. The flavor was surprisingly pleasant. "You've come to the right place, my grandson. Maybe it's not a coincidence, but purpose," she said with that look that seemed to see beyond the visible. The next morning, Michael was awakened by birdsong and the smell of homemade bread. From his bedroom window, he saw his grandmother in the backyard, crouching with impressive ease, picking fresh vegetables from her garden. "How does she do it?" he muttered to himself. Breakfast was a revelation for Michael. Fresh fruits, homemade whole grain bread, extra virgin olive oil pressed in the neighboring village, nuts, and a handful of fresh herbs mixed into natural yogurt. "Is this what you eat every day?" he asked, genuinely curious. "With small variations, yes. The foundation of a long life is in what we put inside, Michael, but not just in food," Sarah replied with an enigmatic smile. That same day, Sarah invited her grandson to meet other people from the village. They walked to the central square, where several elderly people gathered to play dominoes and chat. To Michael's surprise, they all looked decades younger than their chronological age. "This is Mr. Thompson, 97 years old, Matthew 92, and over. There is Mrs. Celeste, who just turned 101, Sarah introduced. "Impossible!" exclaimed Michael, his medical side in shock at what he was seeing. Mr. Thompson, a tall man with sun-weathered skin, laughed at the big city doctor's surprise. "Doctor, we're in no hurry for anything here, not even to grow old." The collective. Laughter echoed through the square, but Michael's analytical mind was already at work. As a doctor, he knew that what he was witnessing in Green Valley defied all statistics. This small village held a secret that could revolutionize modern medicine. They returned home in the late afternoon, after a surprisingly active day by Michael's standards. He finally asked, "Grandma, this can't just be genetics. What do you do differently here?" Sarah sat in the porch rocking chair and observed the sunset for a few moments before answering. "Michael, when your grandfather passed away, I thought my life was over. I spent months in deep sadness until I realized I still had a purpose. That's when I started studying the secrets of longevity." "Studying? What do you mean? Would you believe your old grandmother has even been to Japan?" "I visited Okinawa, where people easily live to be 100 years old. I spent time in Sardinia, Italy, and in small Greek villages. I researched everything about the so-called blue zones. And the most incredible thing, I discovered that much. Of what they do was already present in the traditions of the indigenous peoples here. After that, I decided to apply this knowledge in Green Valley." Michael was perplexed. He had never imagined his grandmother as a longevity researcher, much less as someone who had traveled the world in search of this knowledge. But why did you never tell anyone in the family? Sarah's gaze became distant for a moment. "I tried, Michael, many times. But your mother, my daughter, was always very skeptical. She said they were old people's nonsense. The modern world is in a hurry. It has no time for ancestral wisdom." Michael felt a pang of guilt. He probably would have reacted with the same skepticism were it not for the alarming state of his own health and what he was witnessing in Green Valley. "I'm ready to learn, Grandma. Really." A smile lit up Sarah's face. "Then we'll begin your education tomorrow. And don't worry, it's nothing complicated. In fact, the secret to longevity lies in simplicity." As night fell over Green Valley, Michael felt something he hadn't experienced in years: hope. Perhaps his desperate trip to his grandmother's house was the beginning of a much greater journey than he had imagined, a journey that could not only save his health but also completely transform his life. The next morning, Michael woke up before the sun rose. To his surprise, he found Sarah already awake, sitting in a meditation position in the backyard. The serenity on her face was almost palpable. "Come, sit with me," she invited, without opening her eyes. Michael hesitated but ended up joining his grandmother. The morning dew wet the grass under his feet, and the fresh air of the Appalachian Mountains filled his lungs in a way that the air conditioning in his New York office never could. First lesson, Michael. Breathe. Consciously. Deeply. Breathing is the bridge between body and mind. For 20 minutes, Michael just breathed, guided by his grandmother's gentle instructions. At the end, he felt strangely invigorated, as if he had slept extra hours. "Now let's walk." The body was made for constant movement, not for sitting. "In offices all day," said Sarah, rising with impressive agility. They walked along trails that meandered through the mountain slopes. It wasn't an intense walk, but a steady one. Sarah explained that centenarians in blue zones didn't go to gyms, but incorporated physical activity into their daily routines. They planted, walked, danced, always in natural movement. The secret is not intensity, but consistency, she explained. Movement is life, Michael. Back at the house, they prepared breakfast together. Sarah showed her grandson how she combined the foods she consumed. Always varied colors, predominantly vegetables, with small portions of plant proteins like beans and grains. I observed that in the blue zones, people naturally follow what we call the blue people's diet. They eat mainly what they grow, prioritize vegetables, consume meat rarely and in small quantities, and value fermented foods. Michael, as a doctor, knew the principles of healthy nutrition, but rarely applied them in his own life. The problem is time, Grandma. Between consultations and on-call shifts, I end up eating whatever is quick. And see where that has brought you, Sarah replied, without beating around the bush. Time is a matter of priorities, Michael. Every morning we wake up with the same number of hours. The difference lies in how we choose to use them. Sarah's words hit Michael like a slap of reality. How many times had he advised his own patients about healthy habits without following them himself? After breakfast, they went to visit Mr. Johnson, the village beekeeper. At 94 years old, the man took care of dozens of beehives and produced honey considered medicinal by the local residents. This honey is part of our youth elixir, Sarah joked. Combined with turmeric, ginger, lemon, and a pinch of black pepper. We drink it every day. Does this have a scientific basis, Grandma? Modern science is only beginning to understand what ancient traditions already knew, Michael. Turmeric has curcumin, a potent natural anti-inflammatory. Black pepper increases its absorption by up to 2,000%. Pure honey has antibacterial properties and strengthens the immune system. Michael was impressed by his grandmother's technical knowledge. Where did you learn all this? Books, studies, conversations with doctors and scientists during my travels, and a lot of observation, of course. In Okinawa, Japan, I spent 3 months living with a family where the great-grandmother was 103 years old and still practiced Tai Chi every morning. On the way back, they passed by the village school, where Sarah taught children how to cultivate an organic garden. The teacher, Rachel, a young woman in her 30s, greeted Sarah with visible admiration. Miss Sarah is our inspiration, Rachel told Michael. She revolutionized the village by bringing these healthy living techniques. In fact, many of us younger folks came to live here precisely because of the quality of life she helped build. At lunch, Sarah took Michael to Mrs. Celeste's house, the oldest resident of the village. The table was full of colorful dishes, a vegetable soup, a salad with various greens, brown rice, beans, and a small portion of local fish. We eat little, but we eat well, explained Mrs. Celeste as she served the food. And we always share meals, no eating alone or in front of the television. Michael noticed how everyone ate slowly, savoring each bite, talking between mouthfuls. It was so different from his rushed lunches at the hospital. We have a saying in Okinawa, Sarah commented. Hara hachi bu. It means to stop eating when your stomach is 80% full. I think we've naturally adopted that here. In the afternoon, Sarah introduced Michael to another facet of the village, the strong social connection. They visited several residents, participated in a community effort to help build a new roof, and ended the day in a small celebration in the square, where people of all ages gathered to play music and dance. Social relationships are as important as food, Sarah explained as they watched the festivities. Isolation makes us sick, Michael. We are communal beings. Michael thought about his life in New York. Despite being constantly surrounded by people at the hospital, he rarely had genuine connections. His marriage was crumbling precisely because of the lack of quality time with Lisa. How do you manage stress, Grandma? In my profession, it's impossible to avoid it. Stress isn't the problem, Michael. It's how we react to it. I learned relaxation, techniques in all the blue zones I visited, meditation like we did this morning, forest bathing, as the Japanese call it, and most importantly, having a purpose greater than ourselves. Purpose? The Japanese call it ikigai, the reason to get up every morning. In Okinawa, I met a 102-year-old woman who woke up every morning to tend her garden and teach children. Her purpose kept her alive. Michael reflected on his own life. When younger, he dreamed of transforming medicine, helping people, making a difference. At some point, he had gotten lost in the exhausting routine, repetitive procedures, goals, and numbers. As evening fell, sitting on the porch under a starry sky like you only see far from big cities, Sarah served Michael a new type of tea. This is special. It has olive leaves. In the long-lived Mediterranean communities, olive oil and everything related to the olive tree are considered treasures for health. The flavor was slightly bitter, but pleasant. Michael felt a wave of tranquility course through his body. Grandma, I'm starting to understand that the secret isn't in a single element, but in the combination of various habits, isn't it? Sarah smiled, proud of her grandson. Exactly. It's an integrated lifestyle. Nutrition, movement, social connection, purpose, spirituality, respect for the body's natural rhythms. None of them work in isolation. And why Green Valley? Why bring this knowledge here? Sarah's gaze got lost in the stars for a moment. After your grandfather passed, I realized I needed a greater purpose. I remembered Green Valley, where I spent my childhood. It was a special place, but it was emptying out. Young people were leaving for big cities. I decided to come back and apply what I had learned, not just to live longer, but to live better. And it clearly worked, Michael observed, recalling the healthy elderly people he had met. Yes, but not without initial resistance, Sarah laughed. People here were suspicious. They thought I had come back from the big city with strange ideas. But gradually, when they began to see the results, the entire village embraced the Green Valley method, as they call it. Michael felt a surge of enthusiasm. As a doctor, he was seeing with his own eyes what seemed to be the solution to many of the health problems he treated daily in his office. Grandma, this needs to be studied, documented. It's revolutionary. Maybe that's your new purpose, Michael, Sarah suggested, with that look that seemed to see beyond the present. That night, lying in his grandmother's simple bed, Michael couldn't sleep. His mind was buzzing with possibilities. What if he could bring that knowledge to New York? If he could apply the principles of the Blue Zones to conventional medicine? If he could salvage his marriage, his health, and his passion for medicine, all at the same time? For the first time in years, he felt truly alive, and all thanks to the wisdom of a 95-year-old woman who had decided not just to live longer, but to live extraordinarily well. What Michael didn't know yet was that Sarah's true secret, the deepest and most transformative, was yet to be revealed. Week had passed since Michael's arrival in Green Valley, and the changes in his body and mind were notable. His skin looked more vibrant, the dark circles under his eyes had diminished, and a sense of mental clarity had replaced the constant fog of exhaustion that had accompanied him before. It's impressive what just a week of healthy habits can do, Michael commented as he helped Sarah pick strawberries in the garden. The body has an incredible power of regeneration when we give it what it needs, Sarah replied. But we're just scratching the surface. That morning, Sarah announced it was time to get to know what she called the heart of Green Valley. They walked for almost an hour, climbing increasingly steep trails until they reached a natural plateau overlooking the entire valley. There, to Michael's surprise, was a rustic but impressively well-equipped community center. "Welcome to our little longevity laboratory," Sarah said with an enigmatic smile. The place was a mix of clinic, experimental kitchen, and educational center. On the walls, Detailed graphs showed health statistics of the residents before and after the implementation of what they called the Green Valley Method. On a large central table, books, scientific articles, and meticulous notes were organized by theme. "I don't understand. What is all this?" asked Michael, perplexed. "When I returned from my trips to the Blue Zones, I didn't just want to apply the knowledge intuitively. I wanted proof, data, evidence. After all, I was a university professor for decades before I retired." Michael looked at his grandmother with new eyes. How much did he still not know about her? Professor? Of what? "Biochemistry, with a specialization in nutrition," Sarah replied casually, as if it were nothing extraordinary. "Later, I became interested in medical anthropology. That's what initially led me to the Blue Zones, an academic research that turned into a personal journey." Michael sat down, trying to absorb the revelation. His grandmother, whom he had always imagined as a country lady who cultivated herbs, was actually a scientist with solid academic training. "Why did you never tell this to the family?" "I tried, Michael. But when I retired and your grandfather passed away, everyone assumed I was just looking for distractions from my sadness. Nobody took it seriously. Then, when I moved to Green Valley, the distance made contacts become increasingly rare." Michael felt a wave of guilt. It was true. In recent years, his visits to his grandmother had been limited to quick stops on holidays, always in a hurry to return to his frantic routine. "And what did you discover with your research?" "That the longevity principles of the Blue Zones are universal and can be adapted to any culture. That we don't need advanced technologies or expensive medications to live longer and better, and mainly, that the human body is programmed to live well for much longer than the current average." Sarah showed Michael the detailed health records of the residents. Blood pressure, cholesterol levels, inflammatory markers, everything documented, before and after the implementation of the method. "We now have data from over 10 years. The results are unequivocal." "It's incredible, Grandma. But why didn't you publish this? It could revolutionize preventive medicine." Sarah sighed, a rare moment of vulnerability. "I tried, Michael. I sent articles to medical journals, sought partnerships with universities. But an elderly lady from an unknown village doesn't spark much academic interest, even with training and data. And maybe I also got comfortable in the tranquility of Green Valley. I found my purpose here, improving these people's lives." At this moment, the door opened and Amanda entered, the young teacher Michael had met days before. "Ah, you finally brought your grandson here," she exclaimed. "We were eager to meet the famous doctor in the family." "Amanda is more than a teacher," Sarah explained. "She's my research assistant. She has a master's degree in public health and came to live in Green Valley specifically to study our method." Michael realized there was much more to Green Valley than appeared at first glance. It wasn't just an idyllic village where people lived longer. It was a true living laboratory of longevity, carefully documented and studied. "Why didn't you tell me this before, Grandma?" "I wanted you to first experience the method, feel the changes in your own body. Theory without practice is empty, Michael." They spent the rest of the morning reviewing data, studies, and the detailed Green Valley protocol that Sarah had developed. It was a holistic approach that included nutrition, physical activity, social connection, life purpose, and specifics, relaxation and sleep practices. "And does this protocol work for anyone?" Michael asked, his medical side now fully engaged. "With individual adaptations, yes. The foundation is universal," Sarah replied. "The real challenge isn't the method itself, but getting people to adopt it in a world that values speed, consumption, and immediate gratification." As they returned to the village, Michael remained silent, processing everything he had discovered. His grandmother wasn't just a healthy and wise elderly woman. She was a pioneering scientist who had created a model of life that challenged the modern health paradigm. At dinner that night, Sarah gathered several residents at her house. It was a celebration, she explained, to mark the end of Michael's first week in Green Valley. The abundant table contained all the elements of the diet he had been learning: colorful vegetables, whole grains, small portions of protein, extra virgin olive oil, and, to everyone's delight, a local red wine served in small glasses. The centenarians of the Blue Zones aren't abstainers, Sarah explained with a mischievous smile. A little wine, especially in good company, is part of the balance. During dinner, Michael observed how everyone interacted. There were no cell phones at the table. The conversations were genuine, the laughter frequent. It was a type of connection he had forgotten was possible. "You know what else I discovered in the Blue Zones, Michael?" Sarah commented as everyone shared a dessert of fresh fruits with honey. "That happiness and longevity are intrinsically linked, and not the ephemeral happiness of consumption or status, but the deep happiness that comes from belonging, purpose, and gratitude." After the guests left, Michael helped his grandmother organize the kitchen. His mind was still buzzing with everything he had discovered. "Grandma, I need to make you a proposal," he finally said. "I want to take your work to New York, not just as a doctor, but as your grandson, and now, your student. We can publish together, create a program based on the Green Valley method." Sarah's eyes sparkled. "Are you serious, Michael? Do you really believe in the potential of this?" "More than believe. I experienced it. In just 1 week, I already feel the changes. And as a doctor, I understand the impact this could have. We're treating symptoms, Grandma, when we should be teaching people to live in a way that they never get sick." Sarah hugged her grandson with surprising strength for her 95 years. "That has always been my dream, Michael. That this knowledge could reach more people, that it wouldn't be restricted to our small valley. I have contacts at universities, access to medical journals. We can start by documenting your work here, then expand to formal clinical studies. And who knows, create a longevity center in New York based on the principles of Green Valley." Michael's enthusiasm was contagious. For the first time in years, he felt he had found a new purpose. It wasn't just about saving his own health, but potentially transforming the lives of thousands of people. "There's something else you need to know," said Sarah as she served the night tea on the porch. "The true secret of Green Valley." Michael waited, curious. "It's not just the habits, the diet, or the lifestyle that keep us healthy for so long. It's something more fundamental. Love. Love for life, for nature, for people. Gratitude for each sunrise. Sitting to watch the sunset not because it's beautiful, but because we're genuinely amazed to be alive to witness it." "That sounds spiritual," Michael commented. "And it is. All Blue Zones have a strong spiritual dimension, regardless of the specific religion. It's not about dogmas, but about connection with something greater than ourselves. About seeing life as a gift, not as a constant struggle." Michael looked at the starry sky, allowing his grandmother's words to penetrate deeply. All his medical training had been focused on measurable, tangible aspects. But here was something that transcended graphs and statistics. "I think I understand. It's as if the body responds not only to what we eat or how we exercise, but also to what we feel and how we perceive life." "Exactly. Science is just beginning to understand how our emotions and perceptions affect every cell in our body. Chronic stress, bitterness, resentment. They are poisons as potent as poor nutrition." The next morning, Michael woke up with a decision made. He called Emily, his wife in New York. The conversation was long, honest, sometimes difficult, but necessary. He told her about everything he had discovered in Green Valley, about the transformations he was experiencing, and about the new purpose he had found. "I want to rebuild our life, Emily. Not just our marriage, but our whole way of living. Come to Green Valley. Spend a few days here with me. See it with your own eyes." To his surprise, Emily agreed. She too was exhausted from the frantic pace they were living, from the constant feeling that life was passing them by without really living it. 3 days later, Emily's car parked in front of Sarah's house. Michael immediately noticed the signs of fatigue in his wife, the same exhaustion he himself had carried just 2 weeks ago. "Welcome to Green Valley," he said, embracing her with an affection that had been lost amid the suffocating routine. They lived. The following 2 weeks were transformative. Emily, initially skeptical, gradually surrendered to the Green Valley method. Sarah welcomed her daughter-in-law with the same love and patience she had shown Michael. Together, the three worked in the garden, prepared nutritious meals, walked the mountain trails, participated in the village's community activities, and spent long nights talking under the stars. "It's as if we had been awakened from a bad dream," Emily commented one night, as they savored the now familiar herbal tea on the porch. "We were so busy chasing success that we forgot to live." Michael nodded, squeezing his wife's hand. "Grandma showed us that we don't have to choose between professional success and quality of life. We can redefine what it means to be successful." Sarah observed the couple with satisfaction. Her greatest fear had always been that her knowledge would die with her, that her research would remain restricted to the limits of Green Valley. Now, she saw in that young couple the hope that her legacy would continue. On the last day of Michael and Emily's stay in Green Valley, Sarah took them again to the research center on the mountain. There, she handed them a carved wooden box. "This is the result of decades of research and observation. The complete Green Valley protocol, with all the variations and adaptations we've developed over the years. Case studies, statistical data, everything documented. It's my gift to you, and, through you, to the world." Michael and Emily received the box with reverence. "We will honor your work, Grandma," Michael promised, moved. "We'll share this knowledge, but also live it. It would be hypocritical to teach what we don't practice." On the morning of their departure, as they loaded the luggage into the car, a group of Green Valley residents appeared to say goodbye. They brought simple but meaningful gifts: seeds for a future garden, jars of pure honey, carefully dried, medicinal herbs, and most importantly, sincere hugs and wishes for them to return soon. Sarah hugged her grandson and daughter-in-law one last time. "Remember, the true secret isn't in the box I gave you. It's in what you experienced here. In the connection, in the purpose, in the love for life in its simplest and deepest form." "We'll be back soon, Grandma," Michael promised. "And not just to visit. I want to document more, learn more. This is just the beginning." On the way back to New York, Michael and Emily enthusiastically planned the next steps. They would reduce their workloads. They would move to a house with space for a garden. They would start implementing the Green Valley protocol on a small scale, first with Michael's volunteer patients. "And what about children?" Emily asked, surprising Michael. It was a subject they had constantly postponed, always claiming lack of time and stability. "I think now we finally know how to create an environment where a child can flourish," he replied, smiling. "A place with time for connection, for nature, for shared meals, and bedtime stories." 6 months later, the transformation in Michael and Emily's life was remarkable. They had rented a house on the outskirts of New York, with enough space for a garden modeled on what they had learned in Green Valley. They reduced their work hours, prioritizing quality of life. Michael had started a pilot project in his clinic, applying the Green Valley Protocol with patients suffering from lifestyle-related diseases. The preliminary results were promising. Patients with hypertension, type 2 diabetes, and heart problems showed significant improvements after just 3 months following the protocol. The news began to spread, and soon Michael was receiving invitations for lectures and interviews. And the greatest joy of all, Emily was pregnant. The child on the way would be raised according to the principles they had discovered in Green Valley, not just to live longer, but to live better. Meanwhile, in Green Valley, Sarah continued her peaceful routine. Every morning, she sat on her porch to watch the sunrise, grateful for another day of life. She cultivated her garden, shared meals with friends, danced at community parties, and taught local children to respect the wisdom of nature. Each week, she received letters and phone calls from Michael and Emily, telling about the progress of the project and how their own bodies and minds were flourishing under the new lifestyle. In one of these calls, Michael told her that he had gained interest from an important university in formally documenting and studying the Green Valley Protocol. "We're about to start a clinical study, Grandma. Respected scientists are intrigued by the preliminary data. Your work will finally receive the recognition it deserves." Sarah smiled, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. At 96 years old, she saw her legacy taking shape and expanding beyond the small valley she had chosen as home. It wasn't about fame or personal recognition, but the satisfaction of knowing that her knowledge could help countless people live longer, healthier, and more meaningful lives. "You know, Michael," she said, as she watched the sunset through the window of her simple house, "they say that true immortality lies in the lives we touch, in the knowledge we share, in the love we plant. If so, I think I've found my own way to live forever." A year later, the Green Valley Longevity Center opened its doors in New York, a space that combined medical clinic, research center, and healthy lifestyle school. In the entrance hall, a large photograph of Sarah occupied a prominent place, along with the quote that had become the center's motto. "The secret of longevity isn't just in living more years, but in bringing more life to the years we live." And in the small Green Valley, nestled among the mountains of the Appalachians, a 97-year-old lady continued to climb up and down trails, cultivate her garden, and dance at community parties, proving with her own life that her teachings weren't just theory, but a vibrant and inspiring reality. Her secret had become a gift to the world, a legacy of life that would continue far beyond her own years.